Alrighty. Welcoming back. It's your host, Sully, and here I am with another new guest. We got entertainment developer Marlene Sharp here on the show to talk about the industry. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Do you prefer to be called Sully or Cam or something else?
I respond that.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah, whatever comes out, comes out.
Okay. Well, thanks for being flexible.
I try. So, you've been doing this for quite a while, and you graduated Bachelor's of Art from Loyola University in New Orleans.
That's right.
So what was your big catch-22 where you just I gotta be involved, I gotta be part of the producer aspect of developing entertainment?
Oh, well, when the acting career didn't really work out, producing seemed like a good idea. Actually, I've always been involved or at least interested in all aspects of the entertainment business, but my original goal was to act, and that's what I focused on in school. So I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in drama communications from Loyola New Orleans, and then a Master of Fine Arts degree in musical theater from San Diego State. And so when I graduated from San Diego State, a lot of my classmates were either going on to be in touring companies or summer stock. And I had auditioned for a bunch of stuff and I didn't get cast in anything. And but I did have an offer to work at a talent agency in Los Angeles. So that's what I did. And then I eventually transitioned into production, and production is very project based. So I was out of a job fairly quickly after that. And then I signed up with a temp agency. So I don't know if your audience is familiar with temp work, but
Yeah,
it was a big thing when I first got into town, where you could register with an agency and they'd place you in these. Sometimes they would be temp to perm jobs, which is what I landed in. I landed in a job at a company called Renaissance Atlantic Films. And the owner of that company was a trusted advisor to Bandai America. He had been the president.
nice.
He'd been the president of Bandai, and he needed an assistant. And so I came on board as a temp, and then I stayed there for 2 weeks, and then he offered me the job. So I worked for him for over 5 years, and there was only one other employee besides me, and her name was Danny Dave, and she was the director of development. And then she left after about a year and a half. And then I called myself the director of development. I think he still considered me the assistant. So, in between going to pick up dry cleaning and babysitting for his kids, I was also making deals and doing pilots for various toy-based franchises and advising on Power Rangers, because that was Frank's claim to fame at Bandai was orchestrating the whole export of Power Rangers outside Japan. So when he retired from Bandai, that's how he retained this lucrative consulting arrangement and continued to work for Bandai. So essentially I was working for Bandai, but for this gentleman, Frank Ward, who was retired.
Very neat. And so
yeah.
that's how you got in with developing various stuff for the various anime companies.
Yeah. So at that time, Frank's only client was Bandai, and he had a non-compete clause in his contract. So we weren't allowed to work with any other companies that would be considered a competitor. But it was amazing how many companies Bandai worked with out of Japan and the US. And just because if a toy property was popular in Japan and if Bandai created it and had the rights in Japan, it didn't automatically mean that Bandai USA would have those rights to manufacture and distribute in other parts of the world. So oftentimes popular intellectual properties would go up for bid to, Mattel, Hasbro, various other companies. And then we would field pitches for other partners outside of Japan. Sometimes we'd work with Bandai Japan, sometimes not. And then we had a lot of other like content creators who would come to our office and pitch projects that they wanted Bandai to be involved in, either as like a master toy licensee or a partner, a financial partner, like a stakeholder, a co-production partner, something like that. So we had, oh gosh, so many people. I wasn't involved in all the meetings. I wish I was. I remember this was pretty funny. There were a couple of meetings with Ron Howard that were set up for my boss to meet with him about some potential kids.
This was years before we were Zooming, guys.
Yeah, years before we were Zooming. This was in person. We're based in LA. I mean, I'm still in LA, and at the time, Frank, his office was in Beverly Hills. So Ron Howard had some stuff that he was doing with Imagine Entertainment, and so he pitched to my boss. I wasn't there at the meeting, but I was super impressed that was where he was going that day. I'm sure I was involved with the scheduling of it. And then he came back to the office, and for one reason or another, he was not impressed with what Ron Howard had to say or the property. And there was another meeting scheduled, and my boss skipped out of it. He just didn't show up. And so I got the calls, where is he? What's going on? And he basically told me he didn't feel like it was necessary for him to be there. So he just blew off Ron Howard.
Wow.
Now I gladly would have taken that meeting in his place, and I had done so on other occasions, but he was so unimpressed with Ron Howard that he didn't even ask me to go as a substitute. He just completely blew it off. I do believe there were other people from Bandai who showed up, so it wasn't like Ron Howard was all by himself. But Frank was an important connecting point for Bandai and other potential partnerships. So I'm sure there were folks who were disappointed. And my dog Blanche is here as the Greek chorus, emphasizing everything that I say. She's my business partner now. That's Blanche Dubois Sharp, who is a partner in my company, Pink Poodle Productions. FYI.
Yes. How did that production company come along? Pink Poodle.
Well, I call it forced entrepreneurship, which means I lost my job at the end of 2019. I was working for Level 5, which is a Japanese video game developer, IP creator. And there were, at the time in 2019, there were 3 offices outside Japan. So Level 5 is headquartered in Fukuoka, Japan, and then there are offices in Tokyo. So those 2 are kind of considered the headquarters. And then there were 3 locations, 3 branch offices in one was in Los Angeles, one was in Hong Kong, and one was in Seoul, Korea. And it was a big ooperation. They had really expanded a lot with the success of Yokai Watch in like 2015, 2016, I think, around that time. And so, by the end of 2019, Hino-san, who's the founder of the company and overall big cheese, decided he didn't really want to be in the international business anymore. He preferred to just
all this money to burn, and he doesn't want to be involved.
Yeah, he just couldn't be bothered anymore. It was just more of a pain for him to have to localize content for other markets. And so he decided to close all of his offices outside of Japan. And then Level 5 is not really in the business of global content anymore. They're, from what I understand, it's like all Japanese all the time. And if you like that content, you can buy it from Japan and you can try to translate it and understand it on
At
your own.
least they're region free, so you don't have to worry about whether or not your player will play it or not.
Right, yeah, but it's a shame because we had two shows on Disney XD at the time. We had Yokai Watch. We were in the middle of adapting another season for Disney US and,
Oh,
and
wow.
and any of the other Disney channels that take the English language version. And then we had another show called Inazuma 11. And so those deals just went away. I mean, it was just like, sorry, Disney, Level 5's not in that business anymore.
Not a
So,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's not a thing anymore. So that was that. So anyway, the good news is that's when I started Pink Poodle Productions. I didn't have another full-time job waiting for me, but what I did have were some consulting freelance projects and opportunities that had come my way. And Blanche, lucky for me, is already here. I'm in my home office, and I didn't have to look very far for a collaborator. We had already done a couple of projects together. Perhaps you've heard of Blanche's Bichon Buzz, which is Blanche's film debut, 2017. It was on the film festival circuit, and
I saw that listed on your resume. And
yes.
well, what caused that creative stroke of uh, just wanting to unleash that along the world, where you're just like, yeah, I'm feeling a short film in me. I gotta do this.
That's a good question. And the answer to that is holiday season 2016, I think. I was back in my hometown of New Orleans, and my two little nieces and I were at my parents' house. My nieces were ages 10 and 7 at the time, and it rained the whole time, the whole holiday season. Well, that week that we were all stuck at my parents' house together, and Blanche was there too. And my nieces loved making videos, and they said, "Aunt Marlene, let's make some videos." And then Blanche happened to be there, so yada yada yada. Blanche's Bichon Buzz. so so it was me, my niece Isabella, who was 10 years old. She was really the auteur behind the whole thing. She was the director and everything. Blanche was the star. And then my other niece, Sophia, who was 7, she was like the director of photography, the runner, the script coordinator. I mean, she wore a variety of hats. And so after we finished that, it was rather an epic undertaking. So I thought, well, I have a lot of experience submitting things to film festivals from my previous employers. Let's see if I can give this a go. And sure enough,
there's nothing. It's just for fun.
Yeah, it was just for fun. And then it really came in handy as a calling card for Pink Poodle Productions, because I should clarify, Blanche is a Bichon Poodle mix. So when we're under the Pink Poodle banner, she will identify with either Poodle or Bichon depending on what the situation requires. So she's equally happy being called a Poodle or a Bichon. So that's why Blanche's Bichon Buzz is about something that's particular to the breed, which is this I used to call it her psychotic episodes before I learned that that's part of what the breed does when they're very happy. They kind of get in this zone and they just run like you can't. It's almost trance-like, except that it's really fast, and they make this little buzzing noise. I think other breeds call it the zoomies, but with Bichons, it's more intense. It's just more yeah, it's really hardcore. So this short film was about Blanche's Bichon Buzz, essentially.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Uh, so in between all these various developments and everything, what would you say really kept you going the most? Were you just like getting up? I got so many brains that I picked. I'm able to. You were able to navigate and just always network and find various opportunities. And entertainment industry is not easy for anyone. How would you say you kind of navigated, especially if
By
it
the,
was a slower year?
by the seat of my pants. That's
Okay, no, that's
I
honest. That's what we're looking for
I
because this
wish
is
I
not an
could
easy thing.
yeah, I wish I could say that I had the secret sauce. Um but I'm just always hustling, I guess. I guess that's part of it, and I'm a maniac on LinkedIn. And with good reason, because LinkedIn has been very good to me and very in fact, my job, well, let's see, my job at Sega and also my job at Level 5 both directly came from LinkedIn. And for Sega, I was recruited.
Hmm.
I didn't even I have applied for jobs on LinkedIn. So with Level 5, that was the case. It was a job posting that I applied to, but it was on LinkedIn, and then they contacted me through LinkedIn. But with Sega, it was just a random recruiter who contacted me, and Sega was opening an office in Burbank, and they were moving their operations from the Bay Area to Burbank.
Hmm.
And there were a number of positions that were open. And so they specifically wanted people who had a history in working with Japanese companies, of which Sega is. And then also I have a lot of experience working with the government agencies in Japan on freelance projects like business matching events and uh, localization type projects and so forth. So I've done that with a number of different companies from overseas, and so they really wanted people with international experience, which is what I had. And so I was contacted by the recruiter, and then after like 3 months and 100 interviews, I breezed into the job.
100 months, man.
It was quite an extensive interview process, and interestingly, it was all video conference. It was well, I did have
The
toward
early
the
days.
end. Yeah, toward the end, I did have a at least one, maybe no, I had two. I had two interviews in Burbank, but there wasn't anybody here in LA at the time because they had laid off a bunch of people in San Francisco, and they were only
Mm.
moving like 5 people down from San Francisco to Burbank. And so no one was here to interview with until like it got closer to the time when they were officially opening the office. So I had to interview with people mostly in San Francisco. Unfortunately, most of those people who I interviewed with were all laid off. It was kind of weird, but
Welcome
uh,
to my world. Yeah, same deal. My mother used to work at the Star Telegram and all the other things, and it does get a little invigorating when you're just like, man, all the people who had my back are in the same position I'm in right now. What's going on
yeah,
here?
I felt horrible. I felt
uh,
absolutely horrible. And then after I got the job, but there were like 14 people that were hired to be like this core team in Burbank to start up the operations here. So we were 14 people taking over from like 100 people who had been in San Francisco. But then what they did was they sent us to the Bay Area to train with the people who were leaving. And nobody was really in a good mood up there. And certainly nobody was keen on like transferring all their knowledge and materials
Applying
over to the
themselves.
LA
Yeah.
team. It was kind of a hostile environment, which I understand 100%. But, I was just following instructions, as were all the rest of us. We were all just trying to make it work. But yeah, that was really that was really difficult. And then we were jumping into Sega like 6 months before Sonic's 25th birthday year, which we were supposed to
And
have like a whole bunch of activities planned to celebrate Sonic's birthday, and we had zero budget.
yeah,
So
hands were tied. Were you already familiar with the character of Sonic before you joined, or were you just like my kids played it?
yeah, I was really familiar, not from children, but from me. Um, Actually, the job that I had before Sega, I was working for a studio called RGH Entertainment, and we had
Hmm.
tried to be a co-production partner of Sega on Sonic Boom. So we had several meetings with the executive producers
For
of
those who don't
Sonic.
know, that's Rubicon Group Holding.
Yeah, Rubicon Group Holding is the name of it. Yes. And then that's what they were called when I came on board there. And then
For those who don't know, they've developed stuff for Cartoon Network, Sesame Workshop, and DreamWorks and MGM.
yes, Pink Panther and Pals.
One of them.
We also had um, a movie called Postman Pat. The
I
movie.
saw that at the Blockbuster store so many times, and this is where I like to
Oh,
connect with the guest a lot. I have seen so many of your movies because people forget
really?
in the
Wow.
2000s there were just many movies that were just like constantly just like shown on TV, and you had to realize that's not Pixar, that's not even Cartoon Network. That's they allowed a lot of independent companies, kind of like how, just as a contrast, how TNT or Sci-Fi would have a lot of independent movies just premiere on their channels here and there. Same kind of deal with the cartoon stations. One movie I had seen part of, it just was always on for whatever reason, just since '08, was Gotta Catch Santa Claus. It was by the writer of Die Hard and had Bill Shatner as the voice, and
Yes, yes.
it
Oh my
was it,
goodness.
it's just interesting how everyone was experimenting with animation. It wasn't just Jimmy Neutron or DreamWorks that was trying to get on the Pixar bandwagon, you know.
Wow, wow. That oh god, I had a really long and involved story behind Gotta Catch Santa Claus. Um but I didn't think anybody really saw it, so I am tickled to hear that somebody did, because it took up a lot of
They
brain
still play
cells.
it. Freeform still
Really?
plays it. Yes, I swear.
Wow.
I've seen
Well,
it
and
on.
it was a little bit of a well, it's a little bit of a I don't know, sore spot, sensitive issue. I don't know what you want to call it, because
It's campy.
uh, I I worked on it from the very seedlings of an idea. It was based on a comic property, a comic book that a father and son wrote together, and the father
Hmm.
is a very prominent executive in the entertainment business, and very much in the world of licensing. As somebody who I met when I was working for Frank Ward, actually, his name is Topher Taylor. So he and his son wrote a
Mm.
comic together, and I think they self-published it. I'm not sure, but anyway, so I was involved from the early development stages, and I was working for a Korean animation studio at the time. So my Korean employer, through me putting the deal together, um, co-financed the special, and we did all the animation, and so I was involved very much. But it was a Korean Canadian co-production, which is a treaty. There are treaties between countries to share like tax credits and incentives,
Oh
and
wow.
Korea and Canada have one of these treaties. The US has treaties with no one, but Korea and Canada have this treaty. So I was the only non-Korean or Canadian who was working on the production, and um, there are all these hoops you have to jump through to have an official treaty co-production, or at least at the time that was necessary. And
Man.
I didn't fit in, and so my real job was executive producer, but what I got credited for was some lame title, production associate, because
Yeah.
I
You're
didn't
just like,
fit
what
in
is
with the
that?
that's like, sounds to me like a glorified production assistant, but that's according to this treaty and all these you know, requirements of the two government forces, which I could not overcome, that was the credit I got. So, needless to say, I was quite disgusted with that. And to be on, I'll tell you a secret. I never did see the finished version of that special. I never saw it because I saw.
It was very campy. It's a kids cartoon, but it was
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, for me, there were hard feelings because I didn't find out about production associate until late stages, and it's like, damn, I worked on this for 2 years, and that's like this project wouldn't be happening without me and my
Yeah, how about head of
machinations.
development or something, you know?
Yeah, but and then I had to then, like, to add insult to injury, I had to go and get some kind of form. I had to fill out all these forms because it was like a government thing with Canada and
I've heard of
Korea.
that. It's like, yeah, as if
Oh,
a visa is not enough, even when you're working from afar and overseeing it, it's like there's just so many other office politics that you gotta go for the maze.
yeah, it was so that's why, like, IMDb credits and all that stuff, it's so deceptive. What you see on the screen, there's like a
Downplays a
story
lot.
behind every little thing on there. There's some It's a miracle anything gets made, quite frankly. But yeah, I had to go and get all these papers notarized. Um, saying that, like, I was a production associate. That was,
I
that's like,
swear I worked on this. Verify me.
yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, the paperwork wasn't that hard to fill out. It was just a pain to have to go, like, go get it notarized and then put it FedEx it and
uh,
whatnot. And
make
then
sure it
to get a
arrives.
production associate credit, it was sad. So anyway, I wish I could say I was like lighting the world on fire with that particular show, but no, I was not. But I liked it when I was working on it. I I thought it was clever, and it was something that I wanted to be a part of, and I thought that our Korean studio would be able to use it as a good calling card. I guess they're still collecting royalties on it, so that's great. That's great. I thought it would be a loss leader for sure, but that they would have like a good something solid to say, like, hey, we worked on this outside of Japan. This was a good collaboration. But maybe the studio did make some money off of it. That would be great.
Hopefully, some of that money can come your way one of these days, but we'll see. But
Well, yeah.
I worked on it. Damn it. So you've been back and forth. You've done a lot of additional dialogue recording and just other just bit parts in various TV movies. Uh, who was one of your acting managers at the throughout your career?
Well, I had an agency that I worked with called JKA, Jim Kellum and Associates,
Uh huh.
and they specialized in comedians. So when I was with the agency, that's where I met Tiffany Haddish for
Oh
the
wow,
first time.
small
And
world.
in the office, it just she was hanging out, and that was when I had first gotten into stand up, and
I was gonna
so
backtrack. When did you do stand up? Like first time? Like when did you first enter that
it
realm?
was a long time ago, and that's all I'll say.
Okay.
Because ageism is, unfortunately, it rears its ugly head in this business, and so I have to be
No,
very
I respect that. I
cagey.
understand. It
But
sucks.
I'm sure if you hire a private investigator, you could find out it's not
Now
it's
I'm
it's
gonna
not
ask
that
you person to
secret.
person.
But
Anyway, no, I
yeah.
so that I did see that you had listed that you had done stand up. What were some venues you had played at?
Oh, all the ones that you would have heard of, like the
Comedy
Comedy
Store.
Store, the Improv. I was there several times. Um, golly, I kind of blocked out some of the lesser known. There was one place in Hollywood called like Room 5 or something. It was uh like above a restaurant, and then um oh let's see, other places that you would have heard of. There was this like ribs place, BB King's. That's it, BB King's.
Maybe
In
Kings.
Universal City Walk. I was in a show there. Just pretty much any place that would have me. But it's very time consuming when you're doing stand up to try to get yourself booked places, and then usually when you're not that experienced, you get slotted in like late at
Late
night,
in the
and
day. Yeah.
you're responsible for bringing guests to the audience, and if you don't have like 10 people there who are your paying guests, then you're responsible as the comedian to just like write a check. It's kind of a racket, but people do it because there's all kinds of exploitation that happens here. So
Yep.
but then after a couple of years, I ran out of steam because I was working all these crazy hours just like behind the scenes, and I was running around and auditioning. I'd have this whole secret life where I'd have to make up excuses why I'd have to get out of work to go drive across town for an audition. And then I was often doing theater, and it was just like too much. So really in 2013 is when I hit the wall hard, and I was like, I can't work. I just can't audition anymore. I just can't. It was there was like a perfect storm of stuff going on in 2013. So I can't believe that was almost 10 years ago. But in 2013 is when I decided, as far as it being an actor, I'm offer only. So like you offered me this position, this opportunity to be on your podcast, and I accepted. There was no audition involved. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I like, and I would like more of these, except with pay involved would be awesome. But that's
Yeah.
what I can do. I can
No
be
freebies.
that is preferable. But yeah, that was another thing. Like I would go crazy, like auditioning for stuff, and then it would be like, if I got cast, it was for deferred pay, or like a day player. And
Figure
there were
something out.
some things I even there not a ton, but there were a few important things that I had to turn down because my day job was too pressing at the time, and I felt like I'd be fired, and have I don't have a husband. I don't have a rich family. I basically have me and my dog.
And that's fine.
That's it.
We like independent people. We're all about this on this show.
So I needed to really work for a living, and I had to try to preserve my mental health as best as I could. So that's why in 2013 I was like, well, if somebody wants to offer me something, great. If not,
Life is
then
short. Let's move on.
yeah, it's probably not for me. So I have hope that maybe I'll be like Betty White in my golden years, and like my 90s, that's like really when I'm gonna soar. So I've got
Let's
that to
hope
look
it's before
forward
then.
to.
Let's hope it's before.
So anyway, she's my hero. So yeah,
So
that's
why
my goal.
would you say people value your skill set, your input, and just love working with you?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Why,
Why do
would you? Yeah, why would you say people like your magnetic persona? They like working with you and seeing you
oh,
develop all these projects.
people like working with me? Wow, I thought I just kind of like, you know, but burst in the door and didn't leave.
All right.
Another producer told me once that I was like a little bunny rabbit. I was like the bunny rabbit of Hollywood. Like instead of like a shark or a wolf, I was like the bunny rabbit, like just trying to politely burrow my way into opportunities. And maybe that's the key. So I try to be respectful of
It sounds like they were
authority.
being derogatory, but it's technically a compliment.
Yeah. Well, it depends. I guess it depends on the way you look at it. Depends on your perspective. But yeah, I guess just like,
I say that as a rabbit owner.
oh, okay. Well,
Rabbits are the
then
best.
it then okay. Well, then that makes it all the more valuable with your validation. So
Okay.
thank you. But I think I am a really hard worker, and uh I have done like every job there is to do in show business. So chances are, if there's some new thing to learn, like right now, I'm working with a company that NFTs is and like Web3 is very important. So I'm having to learn all about that, and Discord. I'll just kind of
Yeah,
volunteer to do stuff.
Discord's a maze of developing stuff. It's just like Zoom in here, but then some.
Yeah.
I saw that you had written for the Examiner, among other publications. How was your brief foray into journalism, like
Oh,
talking about
well,
the industry?
yeah, it's still going actually. I do still write for publications from time to time. I've had a few things recently published in various places, but with Examiner, it was a subsidiary of AXS.com, and it was an experiment in crowdsourcing the news. So I received a title of the Los Angeles Animation Examiner. Like, I had to make a case for myself to be the animation examiner. So I thought I was qualified, and apparently someone else did too. So that I got that title. So for 7 years, I wrote maybe over 150 articles for Examiner.com, and then actually
That's pretty good.
Examiner. Yeah, it was a lot of articles. Unfortunately, when AXS bought the acquisition of AXS buying Examiner happened during that time, and by the point that they were like everything, the sale was done, everything was fully integrated. AXS decided they didn't really want to be in the news gathering business anymore, so they kind of buried that aspect of the business. So it's really hard to find those articles online anymore. And but it was a great experience. I was contacted by a lot of publicists, so I got to do a lot of cool interviews of celebrities and content creators and so forth. And and then there was pay involved. It wasn't a ton of pay, but it it's gotten even harder to get paid for journalism since then. So now I'm even more appreciative of being a pro
No, very
back
cool.
then. So yeah. So if you want to see a lot of stuff that I've written as far as articles, you can go to Muck. There's a site called Muckrack. It's like the IMDb for journalism, and
Nice.
I have a profile there, and there are links to some of the things that I've done. Nowadays, I I do a lot of press kits, or excuse me, press releases for various projects that I'm working on, especially for Rainshine Entertainment. I That's a company where my title is head of IP strategy and acquisition. So
Very cool.
I I work with them very closely. So yeah, a lot of stuff for them. But thanks for asking.
Well, no, because this is we really value just seeing people who have just adapted to just so many multiple professions because it's not easy. Some can do it, some can't, some don't apply themselves. It's cool to see when someone just can just kind of just break through and just make a difference no matter where they are.
Thank you for saying that, because I always have felt like I was way behind. Like the where I am now in my career is not really what I envisioned for myself as a girl.
Yeah.
Like as a youngster. I kind of I wanted to have more of Tina Fey's career. Like if I had to say, like, whose career could you have had? Like Tina Fey, or um well, like Jennifer Lawrence, or Emma Stone, or that would be great too.
That'd be
But
cool.
especially like somebody who does performing, but also can write and produce material for themselves. So that's why I say Tina Fey, because she's got her hands in a
Kind of
lot
the
of.
queen of working for herself. Yeah.
Yeah, and I in the early days, when mainly childhood, I thought I would be a great dramatic actress, but then I realized pretty much when I was in high school that no one else saw me that way. So then I had to
Oh, go with
embrace.
your gut. Break through.
I had to accept the comedic character actress persona that I was really born with, and so that's yeah that and still even when I write and stuff, it's there's always some kind of comedy element, even if it's dark comedy. I think that's a coping mechanism more than anything else.
No, very cool. Because I got to tip my hat to that because, it's it's already hard to break into it and then keep the position and have steady income and be good at what you're doing. And then, like you say, then we get placed in places where we never thought we'd be in, let alone good at, and then we surprise ourselves. So,
Yes.
applause to you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm surprised every day. Every day I wake up, it's like I'm still here. How is this possible? I just try to adapt as best as I can.
Happens.
Yep. I should tell you that my coworker here, my collaborator, is
Hmm.
saying that she's at a point where she has to go outside, and this is getting to be a fairly urgent need.
Okay,
So
yeah, no, we can pause. I'll be here.
or or wrap up for now, and
Oh, yeah. Um,
yeah, unless you got like one final.
yeah, my final thing is just anything else. This is plugging time. Anything else that you're developing in either film or any other industry that you'd like to promote at this time?
Oh golly, so many things. Well, I'll show you my shirt that I'm wearing right now. It says Happy Willoween. It's a little cat,
Ooh,
and
good cat.
I am a mentor to a group of neurodiverse animation trainees.
Oh,
So they're
wow.
all adults on the autism spectrum, and they're studying animation as a potential career option. And so we did some animation for a children's book author.
Mm.
She wanted to take her character into animation, and she exhibited at CatCon a few weeks ago.
Cat
Uh,
cat.
and yeah, CatCon, think Comic Con, but for people who love cats. So it's the Comic Con of cat lovers. It was at the Pasadena Convention Center. And so that's where our animation debuted. It was called Willow's Tale. And now we're entering it into film festivals. So that's in my charge because I am the film festival queen.
Nice.
And yeah, but I'm quite proud of it. It was a big accomplishment for the trainees. It was our first paid endeavor with a client, a paying client. So I mentored them through that, and I got a shirt from the author. And it's almost Halloween, so
Whoop, whoop.
I have to wear it every day until Halloween.
You're ready. You're ready for this.
Yeah, so
Any
there you go.
other just advice you just want to leave with everyone in pursuing their just career and just sticking with it, even when things get tough?
Yeah, I would just say stay open to every possibility and don't discount anyone, because you just never know where an opportunity is going to come from. Um and something that might sound like it's not for you could be finessed into something that is for you.
You
Or you
can
might.
transform it to your conditions and terms.
Yeah, you can transform it. You can take lemons and make lemonade is one of my favorite sayings. So that's the way to live. Yeah, until the actual lemonade arrives all ready made and prepackaged, you can take the lemons and make the lemonade. Yeah, and just staying open minded and receptive to all kinds of different things and different people too. At this moment in time, show business isn't restricted to just Hollywood. There's show business happening all over the
Everywhere.
place.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case when I was growing up, but now more than ever, it's true. So you can find opportunities or you can make opportunities like you are doing with this podcast. Like you are the perfect example of what you
Thank
can
you.
do.
You didn't have to say that.
That I don't have a podcast, but you do. So I mean, like that's an example of an entrepreneurial spirit, and just going for it. And you don't have to wait for anybody to give you permission. You can just
There is that.
jump in.
We might have to get you on one of our audio dramas we're working on. We'll see. We'll make it happen.
Sure. If it, I'm offer only. So if there's an offer, I'm available.
Bingo.
So yeah, so that's my just life is not easy for anybody. I don't know that there are people who make it appear that they're just breezing through, but I tend to think it's a struggle for most people, even if they are billionaires. Just watch The House of Gucci. I watched that last night. Actually, I hadn't seen it, and I buckled down with my Amazon Prime subscription and watched the whole 3 hours of Lady Gaga emoting. And wow, that's just like 3 hours of extremely rich people who are very, very unhappy. So that just shows you you can't assume that anybody's having an easy time of it.
Yeah. Don't think that anything happens overnight. And yet, even though many know it's not the case, it's easy to just believe that it is. And it's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
We need to have more coming to Jesus moments, because it's just not how this works, guys.
Yeah, and also like people who seem to have all the answers and who
they're only as good as you or I or anyone else. They don't.
Yeah, they're just trying to figure it out too. Yeah, they're just maybe they're good at posturing and pontificating, but like
they're good at talking, but they're not good at planning. It could be anything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I also like to think about the case study of Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos, and how she seemed to have all the answers for pretty much everything for a good number of years, until it all came crashing down, and she raised $9 billion in investment, which is unbelievable. And then where is it? It's all gone. So like, yeah, I don't know what the lesson is. Just to stick it out, I guess. You never know what's right around the corner.
Oh yeah. You got to just keep on going without letting anything eat you up.
Yes, it's difficult, but it must be done. And that's it. That's all I know.
Absolutely. So you be safe out there. You keep inspiring others, hopefully, such as yourself.
You too. I appreciate the opportunity to come on your show, and
Anytime.
You're so God bless you for researching my background. I more than my family. My parents still don't know what I do, but oh my God, I'll tell them to call you
this
to
world
explain
changes
it.
up.
We'll return after these messages.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win Show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
We let things pile up in the DVR, we add them to our queues, we wait for the DVDs and Blu-rays. We time shift. The Time Shifters Podcast. Sci-fi, horror, fantasy, superheroes, comedy, action, film, television, maybe some not-so-current events. Find us on iTunes or at timeshifterspodcast.com.
Cool thing about Blind Knowledge is we are in multiple countries. We are worldwide all across the globe. We are in the US, we are in the UK, we are in Canada, Germany, India, Japan. We're in Australia, y'all. BlindKnowledge.com. Now back to the feature presentation.
Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Naruto, all things that we love, all manga that were originally published in the legendary magazine Weekly Shonen Jump.
But not every series can run for 300 chapters and have a hit anime. This is David.
This is Jordan.
We're the hosts of Shonen Flop. Each episode we look at manga that ran in Jump that didn't quite make it.
We discuss what it did wrong, what it did right, how the series could have turned itself around, and ultimately, was it a flop or not?
We're on all your favorite podcast apps, and you can find us at shonenflop.com.
Keep on flopping, floppers.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up review show.